So welcome everyone to this morning's first meeting. It's the Metro Board's Executive Committee. Since this is our first meeting of the day, I'd like to ask our Board Corporate Secretary, Jennifer Ellison, to please call the roll. Ms. Ellison.
Thank you. Chair Smedberg?
Present.
Vice Chair Babers?
Present.
Vice Chair Ports?
Present.
Alternate Director Helfer?
Present.
Director Letourneau?
Present.
Director Lowe?
Present.
Director Drummer?
Present.
Director Martin Proctor?
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. If there are no objections, we'll consider the agenda approved as presented. Does anyone have any objections or changes to the proposed agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes for our meeting of March 10th, 2022 before us for approval. Are there any objections, corrections, or comments on those sets of minutes? Hearing none, those minutes are approved. We have one item on our docket today. This morning's agenda is to accept two reports from the Inspector General. The Executive Committee is responsible for reviewing and accepting the reports from the Inspector General. The committee has reviewed the following reports. First, the Inspector General's semi-annual report to the board, number 29, and the Management Assistance Report related to the pension fund overpayments. Before we take a vote, I'd like to ask our Acting Inspector General, Mr. Fablis, to provide the committee with any highlights and updates on these reports. Good morning, Mr. Acting.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, members of the board. I'm pleased to present the 29th semi-annual report covering the period July 1st to December 31st, 2021. During the 6 months covered by that report, OIG investigative work resulted in 3 reports of investigation, 1 management assistance report, and 2 special project reports. During that same period, also, our Office of Audit conducted 23 audits, resulting in identifying over $13 million in savings to WMATA. I'm pleased at the work that my staff has done during this period, and I appreciate the opportunity coming here today and providing the highlights. Thank you.
Okay. And anything on the second report?
Yes. So OIG conducted a review of pension plans to determine if improper payments were made to deceased annuitants. OIG identified 8 annuitant accounts which received improper payments totaling over $440,000. To date, the pension plans have not been reimbursed. However, the trustee and WMATA are working to obtain reimbursement. OIG provided 6 recommendations, all which were accepted by management. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. First, we'll wait. Is there any committee discussion from members of the Executive Committee? Okay, hearing none. Any questions or comments from any other board members? Okay. Well, Mr. Acting IG, thank you so much, and thank you to your staff for these reports. Again, very informative, and really appreciate all the work that the team does on our behalf.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
okay. All right. Acceptance of these reports constitutes the board's authorization to post them on the WMATA website, provided that the Inspector General has conferred with the General Counsel and confirmed that any private or confidential information has been removed and or redacted in accordance with applicable law and WMATA policy. I would like to move approval of this item. Is there a second from a committee member?
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Babers. Ms. Ellison, please call the roll.
Thank you. Chair Smedberg?
Aye.
Vice Chair Babers?
Aye.
Vice Chair Ports?
Aye.
Dr. Helfer?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. These reports have been accepted and the Inspector General has been authorized to post them online. Since there is no further business to come before the committee, we will stand adjourned, and now we will move directly to the Board of Directors meeting. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the WMATA Board of Directors on March 24th, 2022. First, I'd like to call the roll. Ms. Ellison, please administer the roll call.
Chair Smedberg,
Present.
Vice Chair Babers,
Present.
Vice Chair Ports,
Present.
Alternate Director Helfer,
Present.
Director Letourneau,
Present.
Director Lowe,
Present.
Director Drummer,
Present.
and Director Martin Proctor.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. If there are no objections, I'd like to consider the agenda approved as presented, or does anyone have any objections? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. We have, our next item is approval of the minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes for approval this morning. The board meetings from February 24th, 2022 and March 10th, 2022, and executive sessions from March 24th, 2022 and March 10th, 2022. I'd like to consider these minutes approved as presented. Does anyone have any objections, revisions, or comments on any of those sets of minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to public comment and advisory board reports. First, we'll hear from our customers and stakeholders. Our first public comment will be from a former WMATA board member and current state senator in the state of Maryland, Mr. Malcolm Augustine. Welcome, Senator Augustine.
Thank you so very much, Chair Smedberg. I think you're the last one standing since I served on this board, so it's just good to see you.
Great seeing you too, Malcolm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I already had the chance to just congratulate the CEO Wiedefeld on his retirement as chair of our Maryland General Assembly Transit Caucus when he came to brief us. And I also just say congratulations to Vice Chair and our Secretary Ports. I was pleased to cast my vote in support of your confirmation a couple of weeks ago as Maryland's Secretary of Transportation. I also just want to say it's just great to not see but hear her. My former constituent and long-term Metro advocate, Director Hayden Lowe, wonderful there. I also just want to say that it really is good to have received the email from John Pasick. I'm always grateful for Charlie Scott, Jennifer Ellison, and Stephanie Anderson, who always are so responsive with constituent concerns, and they really do help to make me look good, which I'm always grateful for. And I do have a concern today, members of the board. Last week, before we had our vote on legislation to extend the dedicated funding for WMATA beyond 2025 to 2028 in the Maryland General Assembly, the chair of the Prince George's County delegation stood on the floor and asked the vice chair of our Budget and Taxation Committee, who is a fellow Prince Georgian, if our concerns had been addressed. They both looked at me, and I indicated essentially that we should not hold up this initial vote on this matter. The concern was the final assembly plant for the 8000 series being sited in Prince George's County. Now, we had heard nothing from Hitachi on the matter after we sent letters as a delegation in March of 2021 and December of 2022. They just went unanswered with regard to the final assembly plant being sited in Prince George's County, ignored. I'm not sure what kind of vendor that is. I thought that was a red flag. I was dismayed that the reply I did receive over the weekend was that the plant was proposed to be sited in Hagerstown, who I wholly support for economic development. But the RFP clearly indicated that through a local economic benefit provision, a significant local investment be a part of a responsive RFP, and called out the final assembly site to be within the service area specifically. Now, I asked Hitachi to explain how the Hitachi bid and now proposed final assembly plans are consistent with the local service area requirement. I am deeply troubled by this development, and particularly given that Hitachi and WMATA have the opportunity to really lead on equity and inclusion with this opportunity, and clearly proximity from within Prince George's County to WMATA engineers, given our concerns with safety, reliability, would be a real unquantifiable benefit. I have not heard back from Hitachi on this matter, but I felt it very important for me to bring this to your attention for immediate review. And we will be doing the same from Annapolis. I really do thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you this morning. And as I said, it was good to see you.
Malcolm, well, it was great to see you as well, and you're always welcome, as you know. So thank you for those comments, and thank you for
so
what you do,
much.
not only for your district, but the region and for WMATA. We really appreciate that support.
I'm grateful for WMATA as well. Thank you, Chair Smith.
All right.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
with the rest of your meeting.
Yeah, good seeing you. Okay, now we'll ask staff to play any additional comments that have been submitted. Mr. Pasek.
If those comments should be coming up.
One moment, Chair. Here we go. Public comments for March 24, 2022. First comment comes from Ronnie Wee of the District of Columbia. Please automate Metro cars. It will reduce human errors and enable Metro to run more efficiently and effectively. Metro needs to increase its police patrolling. There is an influx in scary, aggressive, hostile riders. Dismissing this aspect of Metro change in ridership could cause Metro a great deal of trouble. Metro needs to get back on regular schedule. Management has enough time to resolve the train jumping the track issue. Metro uses the preceding issue as an excuse to frequently exercise compounding delays. Next, we have an audio from Tracy Meglip of the District of Columbia. Apologize for butchering the name.
Hi, my name is Tracy Mealive. I live in Washington, D.C. in the neighborhood of Adams Morgan. I've been living here 30 years and used to use the 42 bus to get from Adams Morgan downtown and back every week, regularly, many times a week. And it was just recently changed to go to the Kennedy Center, which I can't imagine as much ridership. I would love to see the old route of the 42 reestablished. It was very useful, and many people in the neighborhood of Adams Morgan depended on that route to get downtown and back. So please bring back the old 42 route. Thank you.
The next comment is from Owen Guidaboni from the District of Columbia. Concerning the 7000 series return to service, although the thoroughness and attention to safety is appreciated, ridership has steadily began increasing, especially with some federal and district workplaces returning in person. Can we have, at the very least, more regular updates on the process and a more clear picture as to when this debacle will come to a close? With train cars becoming increasingly packed during rush hour and buses being used more often as well, I think it's fair to the riders deserve a solution to this issue quickly in order to restore frequent and good service. Thank you.
And your next set of comments from Samuel McMahon from the District of Columbia in regard to last September's Blue-Orange Silver Line capacity and reliability study, which the Metro Board is supposed to select a final plan for later this year. I want to issue my support for the Blue Line Loop to National Harbor. The Blue Line Loop, more than any of the other suggested plans, serves all my goals for Metro as a district resident. 1, increases the number of new Metro stops and Metro accessible areas in the district, particularly south of the Anacostia, which is largely Metro inaccessible. 2, focuses on residential rather than commuter travel. As work from home becomes increasingly more prevalent, moving around the city to other neighborhoods and rather to the workplaces is an increasing priority to me. 3, decrease the congestion on Blue, Orange, and Silver lines, as those are my primary Metro lines of use. I am personally benefited by those trains running with increased frequency, as I expect are a large number of area residents. Despite being the most expensive option, the projected revenue indicates it would cover the highest portion of operating costs and be one of the most cost-effective changes to make overall in an era where we need to heavily encourage public transportation use. And I urge the WMATA Board to select this as an option.
And the next comment is from EG from Montgomery County, Maryland. Metro Board of Directors, I am so pleased that it appears ridership is up and Metro is hopefully on its way back to pre-pandemic levels. I support the Metro system and its success as a transit system for everyone in the DMV. I have ridden Metro for a long time, but have never weighed in with the board before. However, I felt compelled to after witnessing in recent months fare evader after fare evader. I also wondered why it appeared that the new turnstiles made it easier to evade fares, with people walking right through them, groups of teenagers hopping over them, and some individuals stepping over them. It is so frustrating as a paying customer in one of the most expensive transit systems in the country to watch people evade fares every time you enter or leave a station. I know I'm not alone. Recently, a White House correspondent tweeted about her frustration as well, echoing what we are seeing now on a daily basis with little or no reaction from station managers. Some metro areas like Los Angeles have cited increase in crime related to fare evasion, and that's another item I want to comment on. I have not seen Metro Police at all in the past several years and have continued to ride the system throughout the pandemic. With the fare evasion, individuals openly drinking alcohol or smoking on trains, and numerous reports of violence inside the Metro system, I believe it is important that Metro more heavily invest in the police presence on the system. Thank you for listening to my comments, and I thank you all for ensuring a safe and effective system for Metro riders across the DMV.
And that concludes our comments for the day.
Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who submitted comments today. We appreciate them. Next, we'll hear from the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Mr. Posner, I believe I saw you earlier.
Yes, you did, but Paul
No.
Simmelford, who is our
Yes.
chair of Metro Access, because most of the action took place on Metro Access this month, and Paul is there and smiling, so let me turn it over to Paul for his time.
Good morning, Paul. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Welcome, board members, and happy spring and cherry blossoms, and the budgets are here. So, and this wonderful month of March, we discussed at the AAC, we received information about the map wayfinding and next steps. For the bus rail subcommittee, we discussed the summer platform project, improvement project, station planning projects, and floating bus stops with Metro Access, which I am the subcommittee chair. We got an update from management about Abilities Ride, the status of shared rides, the GPS procurement to help with, getting customers to and from destinations, call center procedures, and the online trip booking. We're thankful again during the pandemic that you have maintained the Metro Access service area with service with 24/7, and the appreciative of the fares and including us for the flat fares on the weekends with your upcoming budget proposals, and hopefully those will go through, and also in the evenings, and also we still are advocating for a flat fare anywhere from $0 to $4. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Simmelford. Is that it, Phil and Paul?
And
Yes, I think Paul hit all the right notes. I did cheat
Very
and
good.
took a look at what you're going to be voting on for the budget. And
Right.
it looks like we are going to get everything but our flat fare, but we are getting the pilot because you are going to continue according to what's posted with Mr. Wiedefeld's proposal for the weekends and late night flat fares. And so that will give us on Metro Access a $4 flat fare. And you are also going to include the current extension of service, which is critical. Because in the past, every month we would have folks come in and say they can't get to dialysis or church on Saturday and Sunday because their particular route didn't run that day. And so for pandemic, we have expanded that site. Mr. Blake has expanded it with the approval of the board and Mr. Wiedefield. And I noticed that you are going to vote today to continue that, and that's terrific. So let me thank the board and Paul. You guys are doing great. And enjoy the rest of the meeting. You've got a lot to cover. And I'm looking forward to your press conference later today on the 7,000 series.
We do have a lot to cover. All right. Thank you, Paul. Again, great seeing you. And thank you, Phil, for all your work. Appreciate the committee's work. There will be no Riders Advisory Council report today, but I do want to acknowledge Alternate Director Bryna Helfer will be the liaison to that committee. So I want to thank her for agreeing to do that and look forward to her work with that committee. Next, we'll move on to the report by the chair. First, I want to thank all our customers and stakeholders who participated in the survey on Metro's next general manager. We received nearly 500 completed surveys from registered SmartTrip customers and transit app users. We had good representation from each metro jurisdiction and among low-income and minority customers. According to customers, the top 3 areas of expertise desired in the new general manager / CEO are safety, customer service, and transit experience. The top 5 most common responses about what qualities the next general manager should have are or were focused on improving service and reliability, that this person be honest, ethical, accountable, and fair, that he or she have a practical knowledge and experience in public transit, that they are creative and innovative thinkers, and that they're customer-centric and responsive to customer input. Again, I want to thank all of those who took the survey, and these results will definitely help inform us during our GM search. As a reminder, we've set up the WMATA GM search at kapartners.com for any additional input and recommendations. And finally, I will note that the board is prepared to act on the fiscal year 2023 budget today. And again, we'd like to thank all our customers and stakeholders who gave us input during that outreach process. This concludes my report. Now I'll turn the floor over to our General Manager, Paul Wiedefeld, for his report this morning. Mr. Wiedefeld.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the
Good
board.
morning.
Today, I want to brief the board on our rail service restoration plan, status of the reaching operational readiness for the Silver Line Phase 2, and share a few comments on the 23 budget, which the board is considering for approval later in the meeting. While today our rail system is operating with only 30% of pre-COVID ridership, our goal is to encourage more ridership as the region rebounds from the pandemic, traffic congestion builds, and the gas prices become less affordable due to the world events. Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen ridership pick up and are encouraged by the emerging trend. On the return of the 7Ks, the independent consultant TTCI continues to lead the root cause investigation in support of the NTSB and Metro. We're engaged in the design and execution of 4 static and 3 dynamic testing tests to recreate specific operational conditions driven by data analysis, with static testing occurring at the wheel manufacturing facility in Pennsylvania. As the cause appears to be a combination of factors, I do not expect a near-term solution. That's why we have also used a 90-day pause to develop a 3-step process to improve frequency, capacity, and reliability of Metro rail service. But I want to be very clear that the timely delivery of this plan depends on an interactive process of approvals from the Washington Metropolitan Safety Commission so that we can safely place the 6Ks and the 7Ks into passenger service over the next several months. Our plan would restore 50 6,000 series cars, subject to the WMSC's continuing work with us and approval of every single rail car by May, which enables us to increase green and yellow line service where we have begun to see crowded trains. Concurrently, we're working to get the WMSC approval for daily inspections of the 7,000 series trains using a digital gauge that is which is a better tool for this type of effort. Up to eight trains a day will be available to provide better reliability and reduce crowding, such as we see during special events. Meanwhile, we'll be working to install multiple automated wayside inspection stations where measurements will be taken as trains pass by on a particular line. This will permit us to restore the 7K fleet gradually this summer, ultimately providing service frequency on all lines. So in May, green and yellow lines will have their trains departing terminal stations every 15 minutes, down from the current 20 minutes. And with the return of the 7Ks by the end of the summer, the blue, orange, silver lines will also improve to 15 minutes at endpoints, while the red line service remains at 10 minutes departures. Turning to the Silver Line Phase 2, unfortunately, I must advise the board today that based on the current Airports Authority's project status, it is not possible for the passenger service to begin on the Silver Line extension in this fiscal year. As you know, our fiscal year ends June 30th. Based on tracking of MWA's delivery schedule, the date for operational readiness will not be met next week, the end of this month, which is the latest we hope that they would be ready to turn custody and control of the line, stations, and yard over to WMATA. That means the soonest possible date for the start of passenger service would be beyond our target of the end at the end of this fiscal year, sometime after June 30th. As we do not have an anticipated date for operational readiness, we cannot speculate about the next possible window for service launch. Although we continue to believe that if all parties remain engaged and focused, we hope the service could begin later this summer. I know the board shares my extreme disappointment that we will not be cutting a ribbon together on the Silver Line this spring. But it's important to give the airport's authority the time it needs to work with its contractor to turn over the safest and most high quality system possible to serve our customers and communities for many years to come. I also want to inform the board that the chairman and I are sending a letter to the Washington Metropolitan Safety Commission today, seeking their agreement to meet milestones with approvals along the way for us to return both the 6,000 to 7,000 series cars to service and to achieve the Silver Line Phase 2 safety certification that is required to open the extension after it is turned over to us by the airport's authority. Meeting these achievable schedules depends entirely on a full partnership with the Washington Metropolitan Safety Commission, with their timely approvals of key stage gates through shoulder to shoulder working with us. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I do want to congratulate the board and thank the jurisdictions for their support of the budget under consideration today. This nearly $5 billion package of service, discounted fares and construction projects delivers better affordability for transit riders, as well as continued system renewal that makes Metro safer and more reliable. I think our customers are already responding to the $2 one-way weekend fares and will appreciate the late evening fare and past discounts as more events and activities return this summer. I also want to thank our congressional delegation because of the federal support from COVID relief continues.
Example of some of the issues that you and your team are dealing with that's preventing us from getting to operational readiness, and then I likely will have a follow-up after that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, to me, Mr. Chairman, there's really three no-go issues that we have. One is literally there is no certification of occupancy for the buildings. So that is something that we have zero control over. That's that as you go through the zoning process, that is a necessary step before anyone goes into any building. So that's clearly something that the airport's authority is working on, and hopefully they'll get through that soon. But we can't even do anything until that's done. Another one, the one that we're concerned about is, as you may know, Mr. Chairman, and some of the people tuning in today, our system has what we're called the orange boots, which is basically where two power cables come together. Has a long history of issues here. It was key to the NTSB findings at the tragedy at L'Enfant several years ago. And as you may recall, at the beginning of my career here, it was the reason I pulled the service down so we can get out there and inspect every one of those boots. Unfortunately, in the project at the main line, some of those boots are not meeting basically the standard that needs to be met. So the airport's working through that to get the contractor to get those to the condition they need to be. It is worth noting that they are fine at the yard. That was a separate contract, so they are fine there. But on the main line, there's some issues there, so that has to be cleaned up. And again, that's a no-go. None of us want to pursue until we have that where it needs to be. And then finally, there are a number of safety certifications and reviews that need to occur at the yard with our signaling system. So the airport needs to provide that information to us so that we can review that system and then approve it. So that is has not occurred yet. So those are the big three. But just so you know, there are several more, 24 or more of smaller things that the airport authority is continuing to work through, and we work through them literally every day, several times a day. We communicate with them, and so we'll knock those out. But those big three I mentioned are really almost no-go decisions for us at this point.
Okay. I mean, we've been hearing about the updates and some of the issues all along now for several months, obviously, and the date keeps changing. Or has changed over the past 6 to 9 months, I guess, most recently. Given what you've just told us, and given what you and your team know thus far, what is the realistic timeline for Phase 2 customer service? I mean, I think we have to get this out there because, this is important. I mean, it's not only important for that part of Virginia, but it's also important for the system and the region itself.
Right.
So what's the real what is the realistic timeline? I guess is the
Yeah, I think you raised two good points here, Mr. Chairman. One is I think it is worth remembering that we have never, meaning the Metro, WMATA, the board, or the staff, have never put out a date of when this would open. Because the reality is we don't control when the airport and their contractor finish their work. We don't control that. So once they do that, and once they're done their work, then we get into do what we do, and that's this thing called operational readiness testing. The other part of this to keep in mind, and as I referenced in my comments earlier, is that the WMSC has a role in this as well. And again, they have their own, they need to do their own work, and that is fine. But I don't control that. We need to work through issues, and that's one of the reasons that you and I are sending that letter. Is let's set some milestones where we can reach approval, their approval on certain elements, so that we continue progression to get to the opening, and not wait until everything's done and then say, okay, here, can you please look at this? And just so we're clear, the MSC has been working with us all along and with the airport. They have been, but we need clear that, yes, we passed a milestone, we passed a gate, let's move forward. So that's what we're seeking. So with all that said, I would love to give you a date. I can't, and I don't think we can until the airport completes their work and we go through the process of the MSC. But clearly it's not, it is a summer date. If things don't go well, if the airport cannot get the work done, that pushes that further. And obviously, if there's any safety related issues that the MSC identifies, then we will have to go back and make sure those are cleaned up before we can start service. I wish I could be more direct and more and pin a date on the calendar, but I don't think it's literally none of us can, and I don't think that's fair to do until we go through the steps we all need to do to make sure this thing is safe and it's going to be reliable once we open it.
So just to be clear, there's significant work that needs to be done by the airport authority and their contractors. And then there's the second piece with the safety commission. And if, the safety commission waits till the very end, it's conceivably several more months after that.
It could be, yeah. And that's what we want to avoid. That's why we want to, again, I think work with them every step along the way to avoid that scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Lowe, followed by Mr. Letourneau. Dr. Lowe.
Hi, thanks. One question about the Silver Line and then one question about the letter to the WMSC. Okay, so first about the Silver Line, I understand that, WMATA has been doing everything possible to try to get this to where it needs to be, including, my understanding is we've hired quite a few staff to run the Silver Line. We are really our toe is truly firmly planted on the starting line here. Is there a budget implication for WMATA to the fact that we've really kind of put on our war face here, and but now we're being held back at the line?
No, again, it's without a hard date, we cannot wait and then hire 400 plus people and train them. So we will continue training, recruitment, all those things we can continue to do. It actually puts us in a better position once we do, we get to that point. As you know, there's roughly about a 90-day sort of process that we're in effect shake through, the entire system. Just from an operational perspective, not talking about the WMSC part of it. So that basically, hopefully we can shorten that, because we'll have the people there ready. As you know, Mr. Leader has been giving updates to the board where we are on that process. So that's good. That gives us, again, a better puts us in position to, again, hit it running. But you're right, we're at the starting gate from that perspective. But some things have to be closed first.
Are we carrying excess personnel that now don't have something to do that they were supposed to be able to do?
I wouldn't say that, because it does take time for them to be trained. There's familiar with things. So I don't think that's wasted time. Again, it makes them better. And again, all of our hope is that this is much sooner than later. So I wouldn't want to push them off and then have to restart that whole process. I think it's more prudent to be ready to go when we can.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, and so I'm the newest board member other than Secretary Port, so obviously has a deep background in this area. So I need to ask like a little bit of a remedial question about this letter to the WMSC. So my understanding is that every state has a safety commission that oversees the transit agencies in their area. And this is a framework like throughout the United States, and the WMSC is ours. And so there are these safety commissions all over that are operating. In the letter, you specifically reference wanting to kind of change the way that WMATA and the WMSC are working together in terms of like an iterative and collaborative process. Is such an iterative and collaborative process, is that consistent with the state of practice at other safety commissions in the United States?
Yes, and not only with but the safety commissions are for urban rail systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this has a history in the Federal Rail Administration, for instance, and to some degree even in the aviation. Again, they're called different things, but there's safety oversight in both of those industries. And I can tell you from my background in aviation, whenever you're opening a new project or a new runway or whatever, you do it side by side. So you identified issues so that you have the contract out there, you fix it then, and you move on. So that's what the chairman and I are just trying to reinforce, that we think that is the approach that we like to follow. I think some of it's learned from lessons from phase one, that the WMSC wasn't even here. It was a different group. But I think that's sort of a little bit of lessons learned there, that if you wait to sort of the end of the project and then you have this review and say, well, maybe you should do this, and that, that just pushes it out further. So we don't want to repeat that mistake. The MSC, again, has been working with the airport and with us for years on the phase two, but this is the crunch time. And we need to make sure that everyone's lined up. And so that's what we're trying to do here.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, I mean, I think, from the outside looking in, where WMATA gets into trouble is when, we are in a framework where we're like, oh, well, our system's special and completely different, from every other one. And I think we can really benefit from aligning ourselves with the current state of practice at other safety commissions and in the transit and transportation more broadly industry writ large. That is where we should be drawing both our best and our everyday practices from. So I appreciate the two of you trying to advance a conversation on how to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Lowe. Mr. Letourneau.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Wiedefeld, for the public update on where these two issues stand that are of great concern to our riders in the region. If you can tell us regarding the outstanding issue, and I issues with Silverline Phase 2, and I know there are more than what you just said because we've had those updates in the Safety and Operations Committee. Is there general agreement between the Airports Authority and WMATA as to what those issues are and the fact that they need to be resolved?
Yes.
So,
good.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, the occupancy obviously is, again, that's not in our lane at all. But yeah, the orange boots, I mean, they understand, that's not acceptable, and it's not acceptable to anyone. So that's got to be fixed. The safety, the signal system safety, that's a known, that's just part of the process. You have to give us the documentation, complete the documentation, we review it. That's known. All the other ones are relatively, again, things that we've been working through. They're getting their contractor to do it. There's some, they have some debate issues with their contractor, I'm sure, from a business perspective.
Well, like for instance, the heat tape issue has been on our updates now for a few months, and it sounded like it would be a relatively simple thing to get to the bottom of, but it sounds like there really hasn't been a lot of progress. An issue like that wouldn't seem like a showstopper, but at some point, we need to understand whether that's a manufacturing issue, an installation issue, or what. So,
right.
Do you think that there is alignment in getting to the bottom of that, and it's just taking a long time?
Yes. Yeah, so there's no disagreement that there's an issue, and they've got to find out what the issue is, meaning working with the manufacturer. And so that's what's been going on. But there's no debate. You know, is there an issue here or not? No, there is an issue. Now we got to get to the bottom of it, and so that is progressing. So again, we don't have that type of a disagreement on any of the issues. And again, as I mentioned, we are working literally around the clock with their staff and their contractor to get past all those things. And we will.
Okay. Could it be possible that the timeline that you just outlined on the 7000 series would impact our ability to start phase 2 operations?
No.
Okay. That timeline that you just outlined, what are sort of the risk factors to that? You know, for instance, we talked about I think we were calling them wayfinding, or I don't know the exact term.
Wayside,
is,
yeah.
The wayside monitors. I assume that, you know, we've had a lot of discussion about this. This isn't something that we just order off the shelf. These are something that has to be manufactured, installed, and so on. So given supply chain issues and those kind of things, you know, what are the risks there? Because we're now, you know, the public's been waiting. They're now hearing today that, you know, in this 3-month period, at the end of that, there isn't going to be sort of a magic solution where the trains are coming back. And that's because the NTSB, not Metro, the NTSB has not determined a root cause. But in the meantime, Metro has been working on alternative ways to try to get as much of the fleet back as possible. But now, based on what you've told us today, that's going to extend into the summer, into late summer, in terms of getting, you know, to the point where even if there's not a root cause determined, we'll have the fleet largely back. But what are the risk factors to that in terms of both the execution of what we need to do and in terms of whether there is an eventual root cause that's found?
Okay. So on the first part of your question, so we're ordering 6 of those wayside automatic wayside detectors, and that's already in process. We're getting one at College Park in the very near future, in the next month and a half or so. So we're in design and all that. So that is very low risk there. That will allow us to start to run trains over. And again, it isn't like, you know, we can in effect rotate the fleet, you know, through there. You're not going to get all that you would get on if you had all 6 in place, but you will start to see improvement with that. You know, part of that though is we will need the WMSC to basically approve that as it goes along. So that's again why we want them, you know, starting from the beginning with us on those to see what it is, to review the data, and then to reach agreement that yes, that is a mechanism that we can use to in effect as a mitigation, right, until we get to the root cause. So that's sort of what is so the risk is there. Maybe there's a supply issue. I don't think that's a big one because the manufacturer is here. It's not like we're waiting for things overseas and stuff like that. So I don't think that will be an issue. It will be just getting it documented, proven, all that, right? That we got to get the MSC. So that's on that side. In terms of the root cause, again, that is until we better get a better hand on that. There is a risk there, right? We just don't know what it is yet to say that. When we have a number of working theories, they're testing those theories now. But again, you know, in the most simplistic terms, it would have been great if we had found, oh, we need another part, let's order it and put them on. That's just not how this is going to work. That's just not the solution here. And we've seen it in other industries. I mean, you know, the Boeing 737 MAX, right? I mean, obviously no one wanted that, but there was an issue there that had to be fixed. And that's where we are. We have to get to that for the long term. And we will.
And the NTSB has the lead in that process.
Yeah, I mean, we're party to it's NTSB, it's Kawasaki, it's WMSC, it's different vendors. They're all working to find out what's going on. That company that we've basically NTSB has said, look, bring in TTCI because sort of they're the data analytics people that will get to this and let them do what they do. And that's what they've been doing. And that's why we've set up this program of both static and dynamic testing with them.
And there's been a lot of effort going on over the last few months on this. It's
tremendous. Again, it's not seen in public, obviously. Right. And that's why we've taken this dual track. Okay, with this thing starting to evolve the way it's going, what can we do to get more cars out there?
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Wiedefeld, that's you know, I really appreciate, and I know the board does as well, appreciates this transparency. And you know, I think it was important that you and we have this discussion and update the public on this, so we have, you know, a good sense of what it is that we're, you know, sort of facing over the next couple 3 months here. So really appreciate that, and I think this is, you know, important information, you know, to get out, because again, this Silver Line extension is not only important to the region, but it's important to Virginia, and you know, and it's an area where we have real potential to help the transit needs of this region and increase ridership, you know, for Metro, which is important. And then also the update on you know, the 7000s and what you and your team are doing to bring back you know, lessening the timeline there between trains. So thank you very much for that. Sobering, but you know, I think it was important update. So thank you. Is there anything else?
No, sir.
No, you're all set. Okay. All right, thank you. Next, I'll turn the floor over to the Finance and Capital Committee Chairman, Matt Letourneau, for his report. Mr. Letourneau.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The following item was referred to the board at the March 10th Finance and Capital Committee meeting. Item A, acceptance of public hearing staff report, approval of Title VI equity analysis, and adoption of the FY 2023 operating and capital budgets and FY 23-28 capital improvement program. Staff sought authorization for the following actions: acceptance of the public hearing staff report on the outreach and hearings of the FY 23 budget and CIP, approval of the Title VI analysis for proposed service changes and fare changes included in the budget, including permanent adoption of service and fare changes enacted in FY 22, and approval of the FY 23 operating and capital budgets and FY 23-28 capital improvement program. Before I move approval, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to once again thank all of our riders who have been bearing with us during this challenging time for Metro and the region. Our stakeholders who provided input as part of the public outreach process, and express our gratitude to our federal partners, specifically our congressional delegation, for the significant federal assistance that you see in this budget, as well as some additional federal assistance that we recently received. This FY 23 budget relies on federal funding to maintain service as we emerge from the pandemic, and we're really grateful for that support, including the $120 million grant that will help Metro sustain service levels into FY 24. That said, as you all know, we still do have a significant fiscal issue in FY 24 in the order of several $100 million. That's something the board will have to grapple with throughout the rest of this fiscal year as we head into FY 24. The service and fare changes in this budget will be helpful for our system, help make it more equitable, better equipped to serve our riders' needs and their travel patterns. I also like to mention that I think this is a fiscally responsible budget. It's one that's actually reduced the general manager's original request by over $40 million during the course of the board's work, in recognition of the challenging fiscal times that transit systems around the country and ours specifically has. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this item.
Thank you, Mr. Letourneau. Do we have, is there the acceptance of the report? Do we want to, and does anyone have any comments or questions? Are we going to move forward with that? Okay. So staff is seeking authorization for the following actions: acceptance of the public hearing staff report on the outreach and hearings for fiscal year 23 budget and the CIP, approval of the Title VI analysis for proposed service and fare changes included in the budget, including permanent adoption of service and fare changes enacted in fiscal year 22, and approval of the fiscal year 23 operating and capital budgets and the fiscal year 23 through 28 capital improvement program. Before I move approval, I'd like to thank everyone, and including our riders and stakeholders who provided their input as part of the public process, and express gratitude to the federal partners, especially our congressional delegation, for the significant federal assistance that supports this budget. The fiscal year 23 budget relies on significant federal funding to maintain service as we emerge from the pandemic, and we're grateful for that support, including the recently announced $120 million grant that will help Metro sustain service levels through fiscal year 24.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Letourneau made a motion, so we just.
Oh, okay. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, we just need a second.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you. No problem.
Okay. All right. I was wondering. Okay. That's why. Sorry, Matt. I had a little confusion there. I was wondering if what that was. So you have the motion.
Yeah, I have made a motion, move approval of the
All of
finance
that.
committee.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So is there a second? Sorry. About that. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Babers. All right. Is there any discussion or comment, or further discussion and comment? All right. Ms. Ellison, please call the roll, or please administer the vote.
Thank you. Chair Smedberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair Babers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ports,
Aye.
Dr. Helfer,
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau,
Aye.
Dr. Lowe,
Aye.
Mr. Drummer,
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. And thank you, Mr. Letourneau and the Finance Committee and the entire board and staff for all their work on that. And apologies for repeating some of that earlier. All right, we have one item on the board's consent agenda today. I would like to move approval of the following item. Excess property at 9450 Lotsford Road in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Staff seeks approval to sell excess property at 9450 Lotsford Road in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Because the valuation of this transaction exceeds $1 million, this item requires board approval. I would like to move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Lowe. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, Ms. Ellison, please call the roll.
Chair Smedberg,
Aye.
Vice Chair Babers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ports,
Aye.
Dr. Helfer,
Aye.
Mr. Letourneau,
Aye.
Dr. Lowe,
Aye.
Mr. Drummer,
Aye.
Ms. Martin Proctor.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellison. Now we'll move on to the reports by the jurisdictions. NVTC, Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. I personally don't have any update. Mr. Letourneau, anything we think we should highlight there?
No, just that we appreciated having the general manager, Mr. Wiedefeld, visit with MVTC at our last meeting, and there was a lot of questions, some of which were about topics that we just discussed, but it was a good dialogue, and we look forward to the continued partnership there.
Appreciate it. The District of Columbia, Deputy Mayor Babers.
Thank you, Chair. So I would like to highlight for all the residents and visitors to the district that we are currently in the midst of cherry blossom season with the Cherry Blossom Festival going on. And even though we've had a little bit of bad weather, the blooms are still magnificent. They are pretty much in peak. And we would like to encourage everyone to please use Metro Rail or Metro Bus or any other transit options, please, to go visit to gaze upon the cherry blossoms at the tidal basin. We also will like to remind people that our Frederick Douglass Bridge will be lit in pink every evening until April 17th, which is the conclusion of the festival. We'd also like for you to use public transit to also see the bridge lit up. Tracy, do you have anything?
The only thing I'll add is the blooms are spectacular right now. You owe it to your Instagram to get down there and see what is going on. It is gorgeous. I went last night. And don't forget to stop at the L'Enfant Plaza or Navy Yard Metro Station in order to get a commemorative Cherry Blossom Smart Trip card, which is also gorgeous.
All right.
Chairman, that's all DC has. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lucinda. Next, Washington Suburban Transit Commission, Secretary reports.
Yeah, I don't have anything to report today.
Okay, thank you. And the federal government, Dr. Helfer.
Actually, I'm gonna.
Oh, actually, that's right.
Hi, good morning. I don't think I'm going to be able to put my camera on. Are you able to hear me? I don't want to take up
Yes,
enough
we can hear you.
Wonderful. So I'll slide up. Can everybody see that?
Yep, it's up.
Wonderful. Okay, that is just a really brief presentation with regards to the FTA priorities. But we really wanted to open up this report by saying good morning to our board members and thank you so much for your time. As March is about Women's History Month and MS Awareness Month, we wanted to honor Bessie Coleman, who was the first African-American woman and first Native American woman to hold a pilot's license, which she earned in France. We wanted to call her name in 1921. We wanted to honor the first female bus operator for DC Transit, Miss Sarah B. Owens, who earned that right in that role in 1967. We wanted to recognize the growing accessibility over what is happening with regards to Metro, with our new fare gates being installed. Placing equity in transit is a key path forward with the community partners we have. We want to highlight Metro with their community partners and the amazing job that was done on March 17th, allowing for robust transit during that time with regard to the DC path forward and maintenance. And we want everyone to please, once again, as it was stated, hop on the Metro and go see those cherry blossoms. It's spring in DC. You deserve it to yourself. And we're going to say happy year of the tiger when you go down there. It's amazing. Also check out the zoo if you have an opportunity. And we just want to highlight our FTA priorities before we close out briefly. The key priorities and announcements, one of which was already highlighted, where WMATA has received $120 million with the American Rescue Plan. I believe that's stated there. We're also looking with regards to the wonderful news that the budget was passed. Also focusing on our key priorities for implementation: safety, modernization, climate, and equity. And we believe that WMATA and Metro and all of our partners are moving forward with those three things in mind. I'm sorry, with those four things in mind. And it looks like we're going to have a great path forward. That concludes the federal report. Were there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Martin Proctor.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it. And again, as Tracy said, the cherry blossoms are spectacular this year. All right, with no further business to come before the board, we stand adjourned and we will move to executive session. In accordance with the bylaws, I, Paul Smedberg, request that the Board of Directors convene an executive session to discuss the following matters pursuant to Article 2, Paragraph 9, subsection C, personnel or labor issues, including discussions of labor contracts and labor negotiations or interviews of candidates for employment, and the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, or resignation of individual. D, contractual or other matters, including confidential or proprietary concerns, or the investment of public funds where discussion in public would adversely affect the financial interest of WMATA. And F, security or safety matters where premature release would compromise public safety. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Babers. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, and thank you all for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
And we're no longer live.
Okay. Everyone, we're going to take a 10 or 15 minute break here.